All right. Welcome to another episode of Bad and Barred. Just as a quick disclaimer, anything that we say on this podcast is not meant to be taken as legal advice. This is just two good girlfriends having good conversations about the law. If you are having a legal problem, we do advise that you consult with an attorney that is barred in your state. Let's get into it.
Hey, legal baddies, we back.
Ow, ow,
Okay, this
ow.
is our this is our second slash 1.5 slash for real episode. The last one was play. We just wanted to get feedback, and you guys were so good at giving us feedback and loving on us. So we're gonna keep this thing going, Chad.
Mhm.
And so we got our first topic today. We start off our segments with hearsay. This is about like legal topics or legal or law school stuff that like we kind of like debunking myths here. Like, is this true? Is this not true? And so the first thing I had to talk about, Avi, was how competitive law school is,
Yeah.
but not just competitive. It's like people are purposely lying about their grades or how good they're doing. And either it could go either way. They're either lying to tell you they did bad and because they want you to think they did bad so you can do bad, or they'll say they did really good and then they're not telling the truth. Like, did you experience that in law school?
Yeah, so I know we had two like opposite ends of the spectrum of experiences on this. So I experienced the latter at Central. People be lying in law school, period. But like on my side, it was people were lying about like how good their grades were. Like midterms, everybody walk out like, yeah, I aced that, I did this. Like, first of all, it really pisses me off when you take a final or a midterm and people want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about
That's because you feel some type of way. That
I
you
be
can't be
the
mad at
first
them.
one out the door. Let's
Mm-mm.
not stand around and congregate and have a conversation about it. But also, like, you about to lie. You about to stand there and say you knew every issue. You wrote the whole essay with precision, and you lying because the end of the semester get here and how your GPA ain't a 1.4 to make it back. It literally was a minimum 1.4 to come back, and you ain't make it back. So you wasn't acing the exam like you said you was.
I ain't gonna lie though, that was me. If I think I did well, I do want to talk. But if I do not, I will run out of there. And like my evidence exam almost threw up on the way out of the door. Like, so no, I did not want to talk to nobody. I was sick. So I feel like that was your own probably insecurities coming up. Like, I don't want to talk because you ain't think you did well. But look at you now, girl. Look at you
Period.
now.
I ain't think I did well on not nair thing. That was
Not now one.
that was me running out of the classroom on every exam, including the bar. Girl, people was in the parking lot talking about the bar, and I was like about to run over them with
Mm.
my car, trying to get out of the parking lot. I was headed to the bar after the bar.
That's where I'm gonna be. I'll be at the bar on the weekend, child. After the bar, honey, we might
Gotta get
gonna
a
have
little
to
drink.
rent it out, okay? But what are we talking about next? What's the next part?
Yes. Okay. So our next segment, of course, is law talk, legalese, where we get into our legal topic for today. And so we're picking back up with where we left off. So our last episode was about the affirmative action decision. And so we're hopping back in with that to just kind of clear up a few points that we maybe didn't necessarily hit on the last time and just add a few other thoughts because we had a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So to hop back in, so one of our listeners commented was like, "Y'all talk about affirmative action like we know what that is. Y'all ain't even define what that is." And so, to me, affirmative action is just laws and policies meant to increase workplace or educational opportunities for marginalized people. So basically, people who have been historically oppressed, society has this idea that we need to do something affirmatively, and so that's what it means to me is the affirmative action of like creating a law or policy to kind of undo what was done to these groups in the past. And so what do you think about affirmative action? Did I hit on it, or do you have any other thoughts about what that is?
No, I don't have any other thoughts. It's more so like just to kind of differentiate what, and we kind of talked about this a little bit last time of like affirmative action is not a quota. Like you cannot say like I'm holding 10 spaces for Black people.
Right.
That is a quota. You are trying to reach a quota. That is unconstitutional. They can't do that. And so, but what they can do is, like we said, they can say, we want more diverse people. So, the way we know to do that is by having people of different races in the classroom or accepting people of different races for
Right.
whatever reason. But we also wanted to talk about like how it's not just race or it's not just, ethnicity of how people are getting in under affirmative action or taking advantage of different diversity initiatives. Like I know that I have seen in my legal career, just like of different diversity initiatives, a lot of these people who like get the scholarship for the diversity or do have, win, they are white women. They
That
are not all people of color.
right.
White women are also taking a lot of advantage of affirmative action and of diversity. So white women, stand up, like stand up with us. Y'all letting us fight the battles and then taking advantage, but like, come on now.
Yeah, fight with us, right? Like be an ally. And I think it's funny that you say that because you're right. Like affirmative action also was created for gender inequities because in the past we know that women have not always had the same rights as men. And so affirmative action has historically been more beneficial to white women. And I think it's funny that you say that you've seen it in your legal career because so have I. Like the moment that I got out of law school, or even when I was in law school, I'm on my job hunt, right? And I'm like, all right, looking at these firms because I'm trying to go into, mid-sized firm. And I found one that was like, this is the most diverse firm in the state of North Carolina. And I'm like, ding, 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 let's go. Girl, why I get in that interview is I'm like, okay, tell me about the diversity policy. Like, how did you become the most diverse firm in North Carolina? And what I realized that they meant was that the firm was 50% white women and white women. And I was just like, oh, okay, okay, all right, got it.
Hmm.
That's what y'all had meant when y'all
Yeah.
said most diverse. When truly I got there and I was still the only little speckle of color. Actually, there was one other black lawyer. And everybody else that was black was like the janitorial staff, uh,
Oh.
one legal secretary, and one paralegal. Other than that, no. So yeah, historically, affirmative action has been beneficial to white women more than any other race, which is why it's funny that this
Mhm.
opinion did not address any other type of affirmative action. It was very narrow for the sake of race, because all they
Right.
cared about was black folk taking advantage of affirmative action.
Exactly. Exactly. And then so what else did you, I know you had brought to my attention
Yeah.
other things that they said in the opinion that you found was funny or thought was a little off. What was
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so like for me, it was this military exception. And you gotta really get into the nitty-gritty because it's not actually
Mm,
stated in the opinion. Like you brought this up, like I read it and I didn't see what you were saying. And so the one of the footnotes, so it's like not in the main text of the decision, but underneath it in the footnotes, there's this small little reference to the military. And it says that this decision is not going to discuss that and is not incumbent upon like it's not applicable to the military. And so after going back and reading the previous case that was cited in that decision where it was an affirmative action case that was in the Supreme Court before this one, the military an attorney for the military filed what's called an amicus brief, is like a brief in support of affirmative action, saying that we
mhm,
need affirmative action. And so what this decision says is that our assessment and analysis today does not apply to the military. What that means is affirmative action is still a thing for the military. Like it's still applicable for the military, meaning that
mhm.
no, we don't want you Negroes in our colleges. However, we do still want you in the military. So we are going to affirmatively allow you into military institutions and educational institutions for the military. And I think that that's funny. Where on one hand, we're not good enough to be in the classroom, but we are good enough to serve this country in the military. I just find that really damning for black people is that the court said, "Oh, what we ruled today, Oh, be careful. That does not apply to educational institutions and their justification. Because you spoke about this last time. Is like, does the means justify the end? What they
Mhm.
say is the reason why that can be done is because the military has a compelling interest in having a diverse um, group of people that serve, because we serve other countries. We have foreign dignitaries, foreign ambassadors, and so we need diversity in the military,
Yeah.
which is interesting that they can see the need there and how it is essential in the military, but not essential in educational institutions.
I, me personally, I'm confused on why you confused because like for real, no. Have they not been doing that since the beginning of time when
Facts,
they wanted Black people in the military hundreds of years ago, but wouldn't give
facts.
us like the basic human rights?
Yep.
Like, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, you're right.
It sounds about white to me, you know? So
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's
you
me.
are the problem. You are the problem. You gotta be like, girl, wake up now. You acting real naive, boo. Get with the
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. So one of the other things I want to talk about is Justice Clarence Thomas. And he talks about like this whole thing in his opinion about color blindness. And that word comes up a lot in
Mm.
society. And so do you think that we're in a colorblind or post-racist society, Kendall?
I would like to think we were. And I feel like there are times where, at least me personally, I can go throughout my life and not feel like an other.
Yeah.
Certain times, like I'm saying, it's not all the time, it ain't most of the time, but there are times where I can just go on about my life and have a good time and not be like, and feel like, something's different. So maybe in those moments, and maybe some people experience those moments more than others, and we know that.
Yeah.
So maybe those people feel like, yeah, we are in a colorblind society. But I think if anybody is realistic with themselves, especially Justice Thomas, I want to see. I need to read his biography or something because I want to see how this man grew up because he acting like he not Black. Like if you did not know him, you wouldn't know that he was Black as Black as Black as Black. Like that man is from the South of somewhere. He was
Yeah.
on his ancestors was on somebody's ship. Okay, he Black. So I don't know how he can even say that. Even obviously he has privilege. He's on the Supreme Court. So
Right.
he hasn't had to live that life in a long time, I'm sure, because he's in
Right.
his 70s, I think, maybe even 80s. But he knows he experienced that as a young man. And
Yeah.
so I just really don't understand how he can fix his little lips to say something like, well, fix his little pen or his clerk's pen to say that because we're not in a colorblind society. And
Right.
we know that. Everybody knows that. Even the white people know that. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, I think it's funny that you say that because I was on Twitter the other day and somebody posted that Clarence Thomas, I don't know what the source is for this, so don't quote me, but Clarence Thomas in elementary or middle school, they called him like the blackest of the black. Like black kids were calling him that. And so somebody was like, not him avenging his own his own demise against his people because they was calling him tar baby back in the day, back with his Supreme Court decisions in full vengeance against
What is
black
that? What is that
people.
concept called when you like identify with your captor? What is that called? I forget what it is.
I
I'm gonna
don't
look
know.
it up.
I don't know.
It's
There
called,
is it like Stockholm syndrome? No.
yes, I think that's
Yes.
what it is. It's
Yes.
Stockholm. He has Stockholm syndrome. Okay, Clarence Thomas, blink twice if you need help, sir. We will help you.
Oh, I'm weak. Okay. Well, we know that Justice Thomas needs some help, truly, like maybe some a little bit of mental help. But I just don't think that we are in a colorblind anything, a post-racial anything. I just cannot get on board with that. I do think like I am in agreement with you where there are moments where I am aware that like, oh, okay,
Hmm.
I am just merely existing. And
Hmm.
I think that that is usually in situations where like I am in Black spaces where I don't have to be conscious of the fact that I am an other. Like it is
That's true.
usually when I'm around Black folk and we having a good time and we just being Black and I'm not having to
Mhm.
like think about code switching or think about
Mhm.
anything else. I'm just fully existing in my being. And so maybe there are those moments where I'm like, all right, yeah, right now I ain't thinking about the fact that I'm Black.
Right.
Other than that, usually I am at
You
least
feel Black.
somewhat aware of
Yeah.
my Blackness, especially in a legal profession. But that'll be something for us to talk about on another episode. Um, let's see what we got to get into. Okay, so in accordance with that, Justice, I think it was Justice O'Connor who, like, in the original opinion preceding this one, she said that racism would only be alive like essentially for the next 25 years. And that's something
Mhm.
that they bring up in this court is that even in the previous decision, the court anticipated that racism was soon going to be over anyways. And I wish that I had something intellectual to say about that. I don't. I just am like, WTF, sis, like how did you land on 25 years? How did you anticipate that racism was going to be over in 25 years? Like what from a privileged white woman, how you
Right.
lives to say that?
How you know when racism is going to be over? And but I guess the question is, how does anybody know? When
Right.
actually my professor, I was in a social justice lawyering class last semester, and my professor posed that question of like, when when is anybody going to feel like we're equal? Like, what is the point in time that's going to be like, okay, white people, Black people, we're all good. Everything, we didn't forget about what's happened. And I kind of answered that question of like, I don't know if ever. Because they have so many strides on us, that's just like we would have to be in a time machine. We would have to be in a spaceship to catch up. And we're not. So I don't, not to sit here and say like things aren't ever going to get better and be better. Obviously, I hope for my children and my children's children, they don't feel this way and they're not still having these conversations. But
Right.
we ain't there today. I can tell you that much. Okay. And I
Right.
don't think we're in the next 25 or 50 years.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. What would it actually look like for us to be in a post-racist society is a good question. I think when like anti-racism looks like equal access, like when we have access, when our needs are met, like when we have not
Mm-hmm.
not even just the basics, hell, even just the basics, when our basic necessities are met, like when we
Mm-hmm.
can exist and not be in fear of our lives at most points of the time. Like
Right.
I need to sit with that question a little more to think like specifically what that would mean, but I know that we far from
Mm-hmm.
it, like you said. So I think now is a good time for us to dig into like what has happened in society, like in our country since the opinion was released. So we talked about your school and my doubts about UNC. So let's get into it.
UNC, and it's so funny because it literally happened like 2 days after the opinion came out. Now, mind y'all, I go to UNC Law School, who was not a part of this case here, but obviously is a part of the grander UNC system. So UNC, the system, not the law school, sent out a message saying that they were giving free tuition for anybody. And I don't even know, obviously, no, I think this is public information, but um free tuition for anybody whose family is making less than, I think it was $85,000.
80K.
You said 80. Okay,
Yeah.
$80,000 free tuition. This is undergrad now, not no other like professional or graduate school. This is undergrad. If your family makes less than 80K, you can
Yeah.
get free tuition. The issue with it's like cute, okay? UNC, you try to hit a little okey doke on us
Trying to hit a lick.
because right, you try to say like, okay, you get free tuition, but the issue is we got to get in the first place. It don't matter if the tuition was $5 if I can't get into the school. What does it matter? So how are you really addressing the issue? You
Right.
know?
Right, right. And the court talked about that. Like, are we going to see them use these proxy standards like wealth? Because
Mm-hmm.
we know, like, the statistics and data show that the average income of the Black household versus the white is like light years apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so are schools able to consider proxies at like such as wealth? But you're right, like we got to get in the door first. So are they now going to ask on the applications like, well, what's your, I don't even, maybe this is already being asked. I know that it's asked on the financial aid paperwork, but I don't know if it's on like the school application, like what's your family income, to get make some assessments of like kind of where you stand socioeconomically, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
determine if you're in the lower status, try to ascertain like some type of association with your race, or I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how they're going to do it or what they're going to do it. But I do think that that's interesting that UNC came out and was like, all right, you making less than 80K, you get free tuition for undergrad. But you're right, we got to get in the door first, and this decision says that we are not able to be allowed in on the basis of race. And so I do think that I'm trying hard not to be a part of the like doom and gloom squad of like
Mm-hmm.
this is just
Mm-hmm.
opening the door for like, you know, more BS. But another thing that has happened, we saw, I think it was this week, where this week the US Senator of Arkansas, Tom Cotton, sends over 50 letters to law firms, to US law firms who get federal funding. And so for people who don't know this, you can be a private employer or a private company, but if you receive federal government funding, i.e., if you got any SBA loans or PPP money, that's federal money.
Do.
If you got federal money, you are bound by federal law in the way that you like in your employment practices. And
Mm-hmm.
so the Civil Rights Act applies to you, the ADA applies to you, like all of the federal laws and statutes, because you got their coin, you're bound by that. And so what they
That's how Harvard is even in the situation that they're in, because
right,
Harvard is a private school, but
right.
they receive federal funding, so that's how they got dragged into this mess.
Exactly. So what Tom Cotton does, he sends out all of these letters as like a warning to law firms that have DEI initiatives, saying like, hey, you're a private employer that receives federal funding and you are in violation of the law because your DEI work is unlawful based upon the last week's or last month's Supreme Court decision. So basically, we're letting you know that future litigation is impending. And he also says, keep all your records because we're going to be basically like doing public records requests to get your information so that we can prepare for litigation in the future. So now they're coming for jobs too, which is what I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking. Like when I said last time, this is opening Pandora's box. So now any law
Mm-hmm.
firm that has a DEI initiative to hire people of color and to get people of color into the legal practice, they are now being warned that a lawsuit is impending because of this Supreme Court decision that just came down. And that's wild. That's wild.
Right. And in law school and in the legal profession, we call that a slippery slope.
Yep.
That is what a slippery slope looks like. It
Yep.
is because now you rendered one decision that you might have meant to be narrow and only apply to education. But you have to remember, as a Supreme Court, like I said last time, you are the court of everybody and of all the people. So you cannot just say, this is just for this.
Right.
Somebody, anybody is going to take that and say, I'm going to apply it to everything. Can't
Yep.
nobody look at race. How about that?
Yep.
So you have these crazies or, that come in and they do things like this. And even though we know that that's not probably what even the Supreme Court meant or
Nope.
what it was supposed to be used for, but there's nothing in there that says that they can't either.
Right. Right.
So,
So now they are attacking the legal profession, or they're highlighting that they're about to come for the legal profession for firms who look and go to HBCUs, which is literally like how I got in the door. Like my
mhm,
firm specifically had a DEI initiative and was looking to North Carolina Central as a Black school to get more Black
mhm,
lawyers in the practice because, as I explained, won't none.
yeah,
Now that firm that I was at is now potentially going to be up on the chopping block for that, because of this practice of saying like, hey, we want to look at race to get more people of color in the legal profession. And it's wild. They coming for all the rights. Hide your kids, hide your wives, because we ain't nothing safe out here.
Right. And to Avi's point, that's how I never really explained this before, but I had a career before I went to law school.
Yep.
And that's how I got into my career. That's how I got into the government. I worked for the federal government for 6 years. And even though the program that I got in wasn't coined, it wasn't termed a diversity initiative, it was literally just for any recent college grad. But the lady that kind of put my resume in, she specifically was going out and saying, I want young Black college graduates to
Yep.
be here. And she put my resume in there and I got in the door. And it almost like saddens me to think that people aren't going to be able to take advantage of things like that when we do need it. I don't think I would have gotten into the federal government without her or without that. I would like to think that I was good enough, but let's be real. My resume was not special. Okay. I was
Yep.
just like everybody else. I had a basic little degree from UNC Charlotte. I wasn't, like the president of no clubs. But I was a good person. But I don't think I would have gotten in, another way if not for diversity initiatives and people seeking diverse candidates.
Yeah.
We
It's,
can put a pin in that, child. I could go all
yeah.
day. Let's get into the dating scene.
All right. Well, it's time for some girl talk. Let's get into it, Kens. I'm not on a dating scene. You right. So you get us started.
So the last episode, I think I left off with talking about dating a little sprinkle. I don't know if y'all seen that on TikTok, but dating the sprinkles, okay? But before I even like get back to that, I'm gonna get back to that on another episode. But before I get back to that, I wanted to talk about, I saw a TikTok this morning that kind of got me feeling some type of way, child.
Okay.
So it was a girl, and she was talking about how she's dating this new man, and he's teaching her how to like keep her standard, like her standards that she had for herself were right. She was right, despite not being able to receive that treatment from other men she's dated. And how she knows, good for her, good for the man, but how she knows that she was right is because she has heard of somebody else or seen somebody else and they were offering to take a girl on like a coffee date, like a Starbucks date for their first date. And she says, my man was like, nah, I knew when I looked at you, you wasn't no Starbucks date type of girl. I knew I needed to take you, out and about and on the town. But my thing is, are women really looking for a good man or are y'all looking for a good time? Like, are y'all, because for me, let me just say for me, I can't even speak for nobody else. But listen, if a man comes to me and he's like, oh, what do you like to get before work? Like, what's your little breakfast? Me personally, I'm either going to go to two places, Starbucks or Chick fil A.
Yeah.
And so if I tell him that and he says, you know what, tomorrow let's meet at Starbucks before work, or tomorrow let's meet at Chick fil A before work, a little breakfast talk. When I tell y'all I will skip to my loo to that god dog on Starbucks, I will drive so quick to the Starbucks and or to the Chick-fil-A to meet that man because to me, that shows he's being intentional. He listened to me. He asked me questions to figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. And he set course. He changed his because who knows what he does for breakfast? He might not do breakfast at all. But
Right.
for him to say, I'm hearing you, I see you, and let me, meet you where you are, that speaks volumes to me. A man that would meet me and take me to some like fancy French restaurant, even if this man pays for everything, even if the bill is $1,000,
Right.
if the food is nasty and the conversation is horrible, I am going to feel like I wasted my time. I'm going to be like, why was I here?
Girl.
Because it does not matter to me. That man didn't think about what I wanted. If he would have asked me, he would have known I didn't like French food or whatever other food. He would have known that. He would have known other things about me if he would have asked me and, done it differently than just being like, I know this fancy restaurant, let me take you here.
They about to be calling us pygmies.
But I'm not a pick me. You know that. Obviously, other people don't know that. I'm not a pick me. I'm very like selective with who I date. I do not date every guy that comes around
Right,
me and talking good. I don't think a lot of, well, I didn't even say that, but I'm not a pick me. But I am looking for a good man and not a good
right,
time.
right.
I
Yeah,
think
no,
maybe, go ahead.
I completely agree with you. Like, you're right. No, I'm not on the dating scene, but like, even when I wasn't like, all right, like, I can't, I was about to name Ruth's Chris, but you fancy women probably think that that's basic. So I don't even know, honey. I'm a country gal. I would be perfectly fine. I don't drink Starbucks, but I'll go sit in Starbucks and drink some tea or something. I'm not a coffee girl, but I'm fine with a little cute little ice cream date. I saw on Twitter, the Twitter beef last week was, is the ice cream date a real date? And I'm just thinking like,
Mhm.
this man is a stranger. Why
Right.
are we on some whole like he need to spend $500 on me? Girl, I even saw one girl who was like, I'm not going on a date with a man who don't pay for my nails, my hair, and my outfit before the date starts. And I'm just like, how? He don't know you. He a
Right.
stranger. How do you it's a problem. It's truly problematic out here in these dating streets. And I think that not most, a lot of the vocal women on social media truly are looking for something to talk about on their blog rather than
Mhm.
looking for genuine love interest because the problems that people are complaining about are like such you don't want real love. Y'all should have spent a little bit more time with y'all grandmamas to figure out
Not
what
the
a
grandma.
courting process looks like because the fact that a man not willing to spend $1,000 on the first date is not like, oh my God, an automatic no for me. It just is wild.
Right. Right. And my thing is, I might upset the girlies, but like, who was your daddy for real? Like, that might be another conversation because my father always taught me, have the man come in, have him open the door, have him, he taught me how for a man to treat me like a gentleman
Right.
and not looking for like all the materialistic things. My dad did everything for me, like, and he
Same.
still does. I'm at my big age,
Yep.
not everything, but my dad will move heaven and earth for me.
Yep.
And so I've never been going out looking for a man to do those things for me
Yeah.
because I had it already. Some women may be out there looking for the man to give them things that their father never did.
Yeah.
And
And I
so
think,
you're thinking that a man that just met you on the corner should treat you like the man that birthed you.
yeah.
That ain't real, sis.
What's the hotel song on Jennifer Jasmine Justin Sullivan's album where I've got dreams to buy expensive things. The girl who was
The
before that
other
was
side,
like
the other
the other
side.
side. Yeah, she was like, I'm not about
Mhm,
to be out here busting it down for no broke man because she specifically says it comes from the fact that I ain't have nothing growing up. That's
mhm,
what it really stems from, in
mhm,
my opinion. Is like the daddy where because I had a daddy growing up and my daddy even still today like you just said would move heaven and earth for me like my dad gave me everything I needed and wanted growing up but
mhm.
that's not my expectation for my husband today.
Right.
It just is not it's not realistic. We are a partnership. We do life in a
Mhm,
partnership. We put our money together. We pay our bills together. We buy stuff that we want occasionally like for the other
mhm.
person, but I'm not expecting him to like pay everything. Like it's wild. This is not a real y'all don't have realistic concepts of what relationships and marriage is. Like it's just not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not
You go
real.
you gonna get canceled for saying that.
Absolutely. Cancel me. Okay?
They
Cancel
didn't
me.
already they just canceled Gabby for saying the same thing. And sis got some clout. You ain't got nothing and they gonna cancel you.
Cancel me. Stay home and be bitter and single. Cause that's just babe, I don't know. We got to get to the
Mhm,
realistic part of dating. And a lot of women just out here. And we're going to talk about the men too. Not on this episode
mhm.
because we out of time. We're going to talk about the men's.
Yo, y'all not exempt. We're going to talk about y'all more than we're ever gonna talk about anything else. But
That part.
so we're coming, but just not this one.
That part.
So
Well, this has been fun, sis.
let's wrap it up, Chad. I got to go.
I know me too. We're going to wrap this show on up. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode of Bad and Barred. We will see y'all soon.
Bye.
Bye.